to the show, folks. Thanks for being with us here on a Mexican Crossing Lines with your host, Cindy Gomez-Schempp.
And Duke Gomez-Schempp.
You're listening to 88.1 FM, KPPPLP, Fargo, Moorhead, where we are adding local color to your airwaves, and we are bringing you news from the Fargo-Moorhead region. We are talking about the Caravan Support Network, and in specific today, my report from San Diego and Tijuana. The reports I'm going to be bringing you probably for the next week on what we uncovered. Today is just the first installment of that reporting.
Mm-hmm.
Today, I'm going to be talking about these specific things, not in a lot of detail because we got a lot of show to cover and not a lot of time to do it. But I'm going to get into it a little bit and show you some of the most important pieces. Those will include my report on the ABS conference presentation. If you saw my video talking about what happened at the ABS conference, then that's the Association of Borderland Studies. Then you will hear a little bit more in detail and see a little bit more detail about what transpired there. We will be talking about the people involved in this conversation about what occurred, and we're trying to get answers about why these things occurred and why our free speech rights and press rights were abridged by Francisco Lara-Valencia, who told us that we were not allowed to film our own presentation, by Larry Gould, who was the guy that said that there was one of the reasons why he threatened to call the police on Melinda Oporto and Amy Sutton, residents of San Diego who came to politely ask a question about the activities of Otro, Lado and Nicole Ramos, and also Border Angels and Dulce Garcia. So we will also talk about Dr. Emmanuel Brunet, I don't know if I'm saying that right. Jailly, I'm not sure, who was the person that told us that there was no filming at the keynote speech, and to whom I have addressed questions about why things happened the way they happened. So I will be bringing you more information about that. I'll also tell you what transpired in terms of the specifics of what Nicole Ramos said during that keynote speech, along with Dulce Garcia, Border Angels, and what we were able to uncover once we crossed into Tijuana and did reports from the Agape shelter, where I found people that gave me evidence that Nicole Ramos lied to us at the conference, that she mischaracterized her work or lack thereof in Mexico. And we will be bringing you and showing you that evidence tonight. In addition to that, I will talk about how I did an interview of a migrant that, like many of the people I interviewed, could not get the promised help from Al Otro Lado. They were just getting the runaround. And I will be bringing you interviews in which some of the migrants tell me they believe that Al Otro Lado is exploiting them for money, so that they're raising money off of their pain. That's actually one of the quotes I got from one of the migrants, that he said they're making money off of our suffering. They're using our faces and stories to get funds, but then they're not helping us. We will be talking about what Nicole Ramos did after we went to Enclave Caracol. Well, we were outside the building, across the street from the building, and we interviewed some migrants there. If you saw Oscar El Blue Ramirez's live stream from Tijuana, you might remember seeing me in the distance interviewing a migrant. That's what I was doing there while Oscar was live streaming. I still have yet not seen that live stream and a lot of the others that he did, because I was busy interviewing people and I have not had a chance to watch all of the things that went on. I did talk a little bit about what the migrant I interviewed told me about his experiences in Enclave Caracol with the lawyers from Otro Lado. And tonight I will be telling you what transpired after we went there and how Oscar was harassed in via text messages on Messenger by Nicole Ramos right after we left the street where Enclave Caracol is located. We will also be talking about how the Border Support Network Al Otro Lado and Pueblos Sin Fronteras and many of their Border Support Network allies have been complaining about the United Constitutional Patriots, what the United Constitutional Patriots have said for themselves. One of the posts that their leader put out about how they feel the situation is being set forth. And also we will be talking about a Boston Review article featuring Al Otro Lado. And the San Diego Union Tribune's article by Wendy Fry, which was posted in the Military and Veteran Journal Task and Purpose about how there is an FBI investigation of the activists Evan K. Duke III, the founder of the Border Support Network, member of Antifa, an anarchist, and his possible involvement trying to arm the activists that he is working with by buying weapons in Mexico from someone that admits they have cartel contacts with the Nueva Generación Jalisco cartel, Ivan Ribling.
Oh, yeah.
A man that I don't think
The
I've talked
commando.
about too much. Cobra
Yeah.
Commando.
We showed him
Cobra
a little bit,
Commando. That dude.
Yeah.
All of that will be on tonight's show. So stay here because it's going to be interesting. But first, I want to thank everyone that supported us in our trip, that supported us, and that has supported us in our work. It is not easy to be sharing an unpopular message. A lot of what we say may rub people on both sides of the aisle in both political parties, in all political parties, the wrong way. But I feel that as a Mexican crossing lines, it's my duty to cross those lines. And I have to be honest, and I have to be true to what I know, even if it's something you don't like to hear, even if it's something that you're not familiar with, because it has to be said. Somebody had to say it, and I'll say it. I'm a Mexican crossing lines, so y'all don't have to be.
Mm-hmm.
But I want to thank you for all the information that you sent us while we were away, all the kind messages of support, all of the requests for information about our live stream. I want to apologize to my audience for not being more forthcoming quicker in responding to your questions about where is our coverage, where are our live streams. You are completely and totally valid. I validate you in all of the questions, text messages, etc. that you guys sent to me saying, what time is this live stream happening? When is your coverage going to start? Am I missing it now? Because I promised you I would be doing that. In fact, many of you donated so I could go to the conference and you could get the coverage. So I apologize to all of you for not having responded to your requests sooner. Honestly, I was embarrassed. I was mortified at the treatment that we received, but furthermore, I was embarrassed because I was speaking to the professor. She was embarrassed. We were both embarrassed. We were both mortified at what was happening, and I think we were in a bit of shock. We're like, that was not normal or okay, and didn't know really how to respond to it. So I apologize for that, but I also want to thank all of you who supported us. We've learned a ton of information. I have over a week's worth of content to bring you just from my days in Tijuana alone. Not to mention that I have gone into the world of academia and seen it from the inside, and I have some takeaway lessons that I am still learning right now that I think will help shape how I see the interconnectivity of these activists that are working in academia, that are presenting in academia, and how that impacts policy, politics, movements, and campaigns, like the current mass migration that we have seen from the caravans. So thank you for all of that from the bottom of my heart. Duke, how can people continue to support our work and send us information?
That's right. I feel like I'm all rusty. A week without doing, I'm like, today I'm trying to figure out how to do all this stuff again. It's like I forgot after a week. But, I haven't. We're going to do a good show tonight. We're going to bring you some good information. And, it's my job to tell you a little bit about how to get a hold of us. Now, I'd like to thank, everybody who contributed to make this trip possible. We couldn't have done it without you. So thank you, thank you, thank you, and thank you. And on our website, we still have at the top of the kpppfm.com/donate is the story of going to the conference. I haven't had time to take that off of there, but below that is our regular, donation links and those sorts of things to support our organization. I'd just like to mention that there's a person who's been sending a $10 check every month for the past 3 months with a card. And a great thank you. And
Thank you.
I think it's BH are the initials, and
Thank you.
The person hasn't given me permission to use their name. But I'd like to thank that person because those cards are wonderful. It really, it makes us feel good when people say they really appreciate us, and we're doing very hard work. And so thank you very much for that. Some people don't do the online fundraising. And another person, sent a check for a trip because they didn't want to do it online. And thank you very much for that. Also, just for those of you listening in the Fargo-Moorhead community, if you're driving around or anyone in the whole country or in other countries, you can always give us a call on our message line and leave a message. The number is 701-566-0917, 701-566-0917. You can leave up to a 3-minute message. It's the sort of thing that we might use it on the air. Sometimes people don't want to do an email, but if you want to do an email, you can do Cindy at kpppfm.com, or me, Duke at kpppfm.com, or Nemo at kpppfm.com. You can also tweet us at media_ppp. And follow us on Facebook. If you're seeing us now, you obviously found us on Facebook, but we are at 88.1 FM Fargo-Moorhead. We also have the People's Press Project on Mexi-Can. And we take these shows and we put them up on YouTube in high definition. You can go to Duke 1517. Actually, Duke Gomez-Schempp is another way to find me. But Duke 1517 is the name of the channel. You can go there and click the subscribe button, and you'll be notified when we put up a new video. I try to put up the videos right after we do the show, and it takes about an hour or so for them to upload. So within an hour after the show ends, this video will be on YouTube for those of you who aren't Facebooking. And also you can follow Cindy's public page by searching at Cindy Goes Schempp. And as I said, we have a website called kpppfm.com. I did update all the shows before we left, so it's totally current, except for tonight's show. We'll have to go on tomorrow. You go to kpppfm.com, and there'll be an audio file. A lot of times we use those audio files, and we use them on the radio. We strip the audio off, make some corrections, take out any swear words that accidentally got in there. And we'll put some station ID breaks in there. You can just listen to our show if you'd like to do that. And also find out a little bit more about what else we're doing. And that's actually where we go to donate, kpppfm.com/donate. Remember, we're a nonprofit, non-commercial, community-run radio station. We do the live streams, and we've been able to reach an audience that is so broad. It's all over the country and other countries in Mexico and Europe and across the United States, and people can listen to our shows that way because we don't stream our audio from a radio station because we are basically nickel and dime our way to pay all our bills for the radio station, and the musician, or actually the online scammers that run the radio industry, want another $1,000 just for us to stream our radio on the internet. So we at this point just broadcast in Fargo-Moorhead. About 165,000 people potentially can listen to us, people in this community. And we do these live streams so people outside this community can actually hear the content of what we're doing. So go to kpppfm.com, check out the stuff we have, and please support us. We really appreciate it, and we thank all of you who have been supporting this. It's just been monumental tasks that people have stepped up to help us. We would have never been able to do it on our own. And those opportunities, the opportunity to go to San Diego and Tijuana is just like only a couple days there, and we have so much information, and we need to go there again. There's so much work that needs to be done, and these issues aren't going away. They're going to continue to develop, and we need that inside, on-the-ground information that no one is bringing you.
Okay. So, people have asked, following the WDAY show that I did today with Jay Thomas, I was contacted by one of our listeners that said, hey, what's the name of the professor and what university are they at? How do we get a hold of these folks? How can we look them up? Who are,
Oh, yeah.
that, either told us that we couldn't live stream and or record or even photograph our own content, our own presentation, and or were involved in threatening to call the cops on Melinda and Amy. Again, they were completely polite.
They'd been invited.
They'd been invited to come in. There was no disruption on their part. But the rude and adversarial tone that this guy took was like, you guys get out of here right now, or we're going to call the cops. He was just very like, what? And meanwhile, the professor was like, hold on a minute. I invited them. Like, why are you being so like, why did you go from 0 to 60?
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to tell you about the excuse, I guess, that he gave, which is that these two women, he said, were, according to somebody in the leadership or some people in the leadership of the association for Borderland Studies, they had said that online they had been identified as a hate group or part of a hate group or associated to a hate group, something like this. My question about that is this. What did either of those women or myself do during that presentation, the keynote speaker presentation, other than ask a question, politely ask a question that would merit that kind of a treatment? Even if you were a card-carrying, sex offender or some other type of, like, what does that have to do? What is who you are or what you are affiliated with? And I don't think that anyone provided any evidence, proof. This was just a rumor based on somebody's article or something like that, or a post. Point is, nothing that I saw in the behavior of the women at this event merited that kind of treatment. And I think that what happened there was overtly hostile.
Yeah.
It felt very hostile.
Oh, it definitely was.
Unnecessarily so, right? The way in which the Dr. Emmanuel Brunet-Jailly, the executive director of this Borderlands Studies association, put it, is that these women were activists. They're both lawyers, but he said they're activists and they're here to provide information. Okay? So those folks can be, just so you have their names and emails and know who they are, here is Francisco Lara. Here's his face and info. This is the guy that during our presentation and during the keynote was the one that was basically running the presentation. During our presentation, he wasn't assigned to it. He just went to it, just to harass me and Guadalupe. He was yelling at her outside so loudly during the entire... Well, first, he went to the back of the room to yell at her. She went back. He was sitting in the back of the room. She went back there to ask him why he had said that we couldn't film our own presentation. And he began loudly sound like that, right? And there was brief pauses where you barely heard Guadalupe's tiny little voice.
Yeah.
I couldn't hear her voice because she's a very small, high pitched but tiny voice. What were you saying?
Well, I was going to say that this guy, Cindy will tell you more details of how this went down. But this guy basically came up and said there's not going to be any filming because it's some, policy with some organization. And I'm like, wait a minute. It's like Cindy and Guadalupe who, in California, you need two parties to consent to recording. And both consented and both encouraged. In fact, we planned on doing this.
Mm-hmm.
And he said nothing. He can't do anything. And so as he was going out of the hallway with Guadalupe, I ran up to him and I said, hey, I can take a picture of them when they're presented. He said, no, you can't. And I said, really? I said, can I watch them with my eyes? And he looked at me and he said, oh, I think that would be okay. He didn't get it. I was irritated.
He got it. He was just being a jerk. And I say that because he had the audacity after that to lie to Guadalupe when she said, hey, why were you just so rude and abrasive with this guy who just politely asked you, I could take a picture of my wife, can't I? And he was like, nope. And he did it in like this rude, abrasive tone. She was a witness to the whole thing. And when she called him on it later and said, why did you do that? Explain to me why you treated her husband that way. Because this is more than about enforcing the rules, especially given the fact that people in the room all around us were snapping pictures and taking video and filming. In fact, when he went in to check to see if Duke was trying to record, he asked him what was between his legs. Francisco wanted to check what was between Duke's legs. And Duke points over at a guy who's filming and says, that guy is filming right now. And he goes, where? And he turns around and he goes over and he sits next to the guy. Roberto Perez Diaz.
Mm-hmm, exactly.
Sits right next to this guy. And then the guy, Roberto Perez Diaz, holds up his phone and filming me and Guadalupe doing our presentation. And he's sitting next to the guy filming me, looking, you can see that he can see this guy in his periphery because the guy is holding the phone in front of him like this. Mm-hmm. You don't hold a phone like this right in front of your face. So he could see that he was filming us. And he just looked at me like this,
And afterwards, I went up and I asked that Roberto Perez Diaz, did anyone tell you that you couldn't film? Did anyone tell you to stop? He said, no one told me. No one told me to stop.
No.
Only I was told to stop, and I couldn't do it. And yet this guy's running around the room taking pictures. Other people are taking pictures. No one was told
panels before us were taking pictures,
and
videotaping.
He said, you will be kicked out if you film. You'll be immediately kicked out of this room.
And Guadalupe told me that in all the previous Borderland Studies conferences, people filmed. And people took pictures. And people shared those pictures on social media. And no one was ever told they couldn't do it. And it wasn't arbitrary, in my opinion. It was very targeted. And you could feel these folks had this rude, abrasive behavior. When Guadalupe confronted him and said, hey, why did you do that to Duke? Why did you tell him he couldn't film? He said, I didn't tell him he couldn't film. And she said, yes, you did. You said you can't film. You can't take a picture. Why did you say you can't take a picture? Why did you not let him even take a picture of us, of his wife, of our own presentation? He said, I didn't say that. And she's like, yes, you did. He said, oh, no. Duke came up to me and asked me, can I take a picture of you? And that's why I said no. And she said, no, he did not say that. He specifically asked you if he could take a picture of his wife. And you said no, and you didn't just say no. You were rude about it. Why? And he's like, no. If I did say that, I guess I have poor English. That's what he said. Oh, oops. I don't English. No more. That's my reasoning. That's why I said he was being a jerk. Because he acted when caught, when confronted. He pretended like a 6-year-old child with his fingers in the cookie jar that, did I do the thing? Oh, oops. Sorry. And the kind of person that does that is the kind of person that knows they're breaking the rules, that knows they're being aggressive, that knows they're creating an environment that is hostile to the presenters, in this particular case, specifically me and Guadalupe and my technical, my producer and my technical advisor, Duke, that came along for the express purpose of filming what we were there to do. And he acted like a child would, making a completely absurd and implausible excuse. And then when you don't buy that one and you go, no, that's not what happened, they go, okay, I guess I don't understand English now. Got away with it.
Yeah.
So I have a hard time believing that a person like Francisco, who denied right to our faces, our right to film our own presentation while letting others film us and film other people in the room, while saying at the same time later on, oh, it's because California is a two-party state. Right. But if people in the room are at a public conference where there is no expectation of privacy because the public goes to a hotel, any patron that is renting in that hotel can go up and down and get into an elevator on a floor that has these people and walk by and be talking on the phone and end up capturing part of conversation or filming people that are in that conference because they're in a hotel. You don't have an expectation of privacy in places like that. Now, if that was a hospital, that would be different because people go there for private procedures.
Exactly.
Everyone's confidentiality has to be respected inside of a venue like that. But here's something else. No one else was asked or told to follow these rules.
Yeah.
No one. Larry Gould was the person that threw out Amy and Melinda Oporto from the event. He is do you have a picture of him? Oh, there he is. That's the guy. Yes. He is the one that said that the reason why he was so abrasive and was, threatening to call the police on two women who acted completely within their right as local citizens invited to this event to be able to ask a question, which they did very politely, was because his prejudice and the whatever he was seeing on the internet told him that he can treat people this way because of their political affiliation, because of something outside of the conference. They're part of a hate group, he said.
Wow.
And Dr. Emmanuel Brunet-Jailly is the executive director of the association, to whom I have directed my questions, from whom I would expect a response as to why my rights as a member of the press. As a member of the press, what did our name tag say, Duke? How was our organization registered?
Oh, KPPP-LP 88.1, Fargo Moorhead. We were registered as a radio station, as press, to be at this conference. Cindy was registered as the host of a
Presenter.
Mexican crossing lines on KPPP LP 88.1 FM radio, Fargo-Moorhead Radio. And so there was no question that, who we represented and, what we were doing there. So it's like, it's right there on our name tape, So it's like, their hostility was aimed at us. It was aimed specifically at us. And, this is a conference we had to pay a bunch of money to get into. This is a conference that we spent a lot of time fundraising, and we wanted to live stream. We have the information. We have reported. We have lots to say about what we experienced and also the reporting in Tijuana. But it's like that presentation, I wanted to be able to live stream it. I mean, that was part of our plan, and they squelched that and said nope, and they cut us out of the whole deal.
The saddest part was that when Guadalupe and I were supposed to present, she was still getting yelled at outside in the hallway. Now, let me tell you that Francisco Lara-Valencia has already stated that he did not yell at the professor. He did not yell at her. He was not yelling at her. That's just how his voice sounds. That's just how he talks. He's got a loud and boomy voice. So he can understand why people would think he was yelling, but he wasn't yelling. When the person that you're talking to comes back into the room, because I called her because it was time for us to present, and you literally yelled at her through 3 or 4 presentations before us the entire time. First in the back of the room, and then you decided to keep yelling at her in the hallway. Not because you give a rip about how you were disrupting the other people's presentations and not allowing the people that were there to listen to them to hear what was happening in the front of the room. Oh no, you would have gone on, I'm sure. It's because everyone was staring at you. Because the presenter at the front of the room, who was from France and not an English speaker as her first language, was stumbling all over her presentation because of your yelling. That's why you laughed. But then he says, he didn't yell. I guess he also didn't notice that the person that he was talking to left when I came out to call her, to tell her it's our turn. Because up until that point, I had to sit there with a knot in my stomach as I listened to the professor, past president of the association that I was presenting with, being berated and treated like a ugly stepchild by this guy out in the hallway. I could tell we were not welcome. Loud and clear. You're not welcome, and you are not welcome. Oh, by the way, the night before our presentation, they changed the time of our presentation from 12 something to 9:45 in the morning. And how much time do you think that gave people that were planning and had scheduled into their time when they wanted to come to our presentation? How much time do you think that gave them to switch around their schedule when they literally told us at night, the night before? 0, practically 0. But that wasn't enough to bury our presentation. It wasn't enough. They had to make sure nobody could find it, not even us. Right?
Yep.
They didn't put a sign on the door that said, this is the location of this presentation with these names and these people and these titles. Nowhere. Weren't you in the hallway looking around, and what did you find, Duke?
I actually went to the registration desk where they had all the schedules, and they were the people informing people of what's going on. And I said, there's this panel I was supposed to speak at whatever the time was, and she named off the name of it. And I said, yes, that's the one. Where is it this morning? She said, I don't know. I was never told where it's supposed to be. And I thought, it's supposed to start in 5 minutes. In 5 minutes, that panel was supposed to start, and the registration people didn't even know where it was at. When we finally found out where it was at, because Guadalupe was asking around, someone did know, It wasn't even in the main area where all the other presentations were. We had to walk out the hallway, past the elevators, over by the swimming pool, into this area in room C, by the pool, with no sign on the door or nothing. And I was surprised there was even any people besides us there. It's really bizarre. And I thought, oh, this is not going to go well. In fact, I thought it wasn't even going to go. I thought we came all this way to do this presentation. Cindy and Nemo and all these other researchers were busting their butts doing this research. This information's not even going to get presented here. I thought, man, this is a burn.
They buried it. They censored us. They stopped us from filming when everyone else and every other conference always had done it. And they will even admit that's the truth. But they don't want to say openly that they targeted us, that they had a prejudice based on rumor and innuendo and things not involved in the presentation or in the conference itself, that came from people like Nicole Ramos and Otro Lado, and acted on that prejudice that was not part of the conference. Once again, stuff that has to do with my reporting, stuff that has to do with my work, stuff that has to do with my radio show, stuff that has to do with other people's private lives, and use that as an excuse, as a basis to discriminate against myself and these other folks that I've talked about. Because that's what happened. Mm-hmm. That's exactly what happened. And, you know, it's funny because these people are teachers, they're academics, and I went there totally believing they had an open mind, giving this group of academics the benefit of the doubt, because I thought these people are seeking the truth and they want to teach it to others. They want to make sure that people can truly understand. I mean, that's what educators do. They want to synthesize information and extrapolate from the investigation what outcomes and use this information for good to try to help people. What I saw was an organization that seemed to be doing some kind of fluffing for Nicole Ramos al Otro Lado and the organizations that they seem to want to hold up, that are all involved currently in some very non-organic, questionable activities like Border Angels, Al Otro Lado, Pueblos sin Fronteras, and others that I have mentioned on my show, that are part of this border support network. Okay? This message was not received. It was not well received. It was censored. It was attacked. It was harassed, and it was hidden. Hidden from view so that nobody could find it, so that nobody could see it, while Francisco Lara-Valencia berated and harassed and created a hostile environment for both of the presenters, such that when Guadalupe finally came into the room, she had tears in her eyes. She was shaking. And when she sat down, she was a nervous mess. I've listened to this woman talk. I've watched her write. I know she's articulate. I know that she is she just knows how to speak eloquently, and she is not afraid or embarrassed or nervous to talk in front of people. She was completely out of sorts. What was supposed to be a 5-minute presentation on an introduction of my work and my presentation turned into a stumbling 10 minutes because she was so off kilter from what this man did to her. And she said as much afterwards. She's like, "I'm sorry, Cindy. I'm still in shock. I feel sick. I want to cry. And we both felt that way. I felt that way. I have never experienced that level of irresponsible and unethical behavior on the part of people that call themselves professionals, educators, or professors. These seemed like very, very biased, and they already made up their mind. Individuals, they've already made up their mind. They want to keep us from doing our work as reporters and or hijack the narrative. What these activists have done is hijack the narrative. And the folks at the ABS that I've talked to you about tonight had a very hostile attitude toward the message and toward any kind of questioning, which leads me to believe that Ms. Ramos, Otro, Lado, and many of these people in the Borderland Support Network are used to having softballs only lobbed at them so they can use their script and click them right out of the park every single time. There's no stumbling blocks. There's no hard questions. There's no request for transparency. There's no request for accountability. Just softballs. All of it. Meanwhile, they claim that they're helping Mexicans. It's rich. I've shown you. Nicole Ramos? Yeah. They claim that they're helping Mexico. They claim that they're helping Mexicans, all while they are bleeping them in the butt, because that's what they're doing. They are literally bending Mexico and Mexicans over and just take it. This is what you get. Oh, but we're here fighting for your rights. We're here fighting for the rights of, and it's a lateral oppression of people of color, what they're actually doing. Pitting neighbors against neighbors.
Yep.
The truth is that Mexico and Mexican authorities are working in tandem with the United States to uncover what these folks are doing. This is, it was a labor for us that we do with humility and with a lot of openness, because throughout the trajectory of what I reported on Standing Rock, I felt very much isolated. We moved in very progressive circles, and they didn't like what we had to say about what many of these folks were doing to people like Kathleen Bennett and her mom and others, other stories that we uncovered. Whenever we tried to expose the corruption, the lies, the fraud, the crimes, that's when people began to turn. And they were like, I don't like your message. You make it seem like the water protectors are bad. I'm like, well, I'm finding that many of them are. I'm sorry. I'm sorry for your loss. I'm sorry that I killed your sacred cow. Yep. But that's what's going on. And I am learning that I have to talk to everyone to get information. That's the only way. We have to share this information and work together to try to expose these situations, these crimes. Here's us headed out there. We had was it 3.5 hour flight?
Yep.
Nonstop, all the way to San Diego. That was one small grace for us, because travel can be rough on their bodies.
Yeah,
it was.
Definitely.
I have had a recent surgery on my leg, so I'm not 100%, and I did a lot more walking and a lot more climbing hills like a goat that were in a very, very steep incline than I have in a long, long time. So I can tell you my body is still sore from my trip to San Diego. But thankfully, our plane flight was very good. Alaska Airlines did a great job.
Yep.
I really enjoyed it.
Me too.
I really liked the flight. Everything was great. We had a snafu there at the end. All their systems were down. I wanted to cry.
Yeah. We made it. We made it back.
Things got rearranged. There's a lot of flights getting rearranged. But we got home, and here is what we paid to get in to this place. This is the ironic thing. I actually paid these people to berate me. I paid them for 5 minutes or less of a presentation that was supposed to be 10 minutes long.
Yep.
15 minutes in total. And which I couldn't even film or photograph. Here's our registration from the WSSA that shows that we, paid, and that both Duke and I had to pay.
Yeah, I had to pay just to go watch and listen, but I was supposed to film.
You were supposed to film, otherwise you wouldn't have paid. You wouldn't have been there.
Yeah,
I wouldn't have needed you to be there, because
exactly.
Nobody would have to film, and you're not going to pay $70 just to sit there.
I'm sure Nicole Ramos didn't pay $220 to go in there.
Okay. No, I'm sure not. But the expectation from my audience was very clear. When we left, as you know, I told you all that I crowdfunded this, and you can see there, Tori says, I can't wait to hear it all. Brissy says, I truly can't wait to see how this rolls. Brad says, were you able to video your questioning Nicole Ramos at the event?
I wish.
Can't wait to see your question. Can't wait to see you question Nicole. Yep, we're going to have to keep on waiting, Brad, because they didn't let me. Lee says, just be safe, both of you. And there were many others. You all know who you are. You were nonstop sending me messages, asking me where our live streams were, when you could watch.
Mm-hmm.
That expectation was very clear when I went out. You knew I was going there with the expectation I was going to be bringing you those events live. But that was not possible. Here's a photo of our presentation. Of course, you can see Duke there in the front. Duke is sitting in a chair with his back to the chalkboard image that is being projected onto the screen there. And you can see that obviously he's not filming. Francisco is sitting in the second row right in front of us where we are presenting. As you can see, that's the position, the vantage point that he had. And the guy in the floppy brown hat next to him was the guy filming me.
Yep. And this was taken by someone who
And this is taken by somebody that was at the back of the room. Someone we gave our permission to in a two-party state to allow us, to film ourselves. And now I know we always had the right to do that. But Francisco denied us that right and then pretended that he, didn't speak English.
Uh-huh.
He knew exactly what he was doing. As you can see, there is the Border Support Network image on the screen, on the projection. And this is what we have, unfortunately. That's it. Nicole Ramos presented 2 days before that. She presented she was a keynote on Thursday, and then we presented on a Saturday or morning. The people that you see in this picture are first the moderator, the woman with the black jacket with white trim and the pink dress. Her name is Iracema Coronado. She was the moderator that barked that I needed to stop talking and not interrupt, because I asked a clarifying question when I heard Nicole Ramos going down the path of, I'm not going to answer this question and pretend that there are higher numbers than the national average of people that receive asylum in this country, so that she can excuse the fact that she is bringing millions of people into this country on the excuse that they are seeking asylum, when she knows damn well that only about 3% of them will get it. So she skirts that question. She runs from it like her hair is on fire. If you ask her this question, she will try to avoid you like Usain Bolt.
Mm-hmm.
She runs. Oh, that figure is difficult to pin down because there are different circuits, and different circuits in one. Can you believe it? In one court, you can get the blah, 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 blah. And so I was like, shush, excuse me. I tried to put the kibosh on it because I wanted to get a straight answer, just one from Nicole Ramos. And she said, no, that woman, Iracema Coronado, the moderator there, said, be quiet. Now, let me tell you that in the other panels I saw, people asked questions out of turn, moderators interrupted presenters in the middle of their presentations to ask questions, to give examples, to get clarifications. No one had a problem with any of it. People were filming, people were taking pictures. All of this was happening around me at every other thing happening at this conference, at this same conference. But when it came to us, we got a very, very different treatment, right? When it came to the keynote and us being in the room and us wanting to ask questions, suddenly everything changed.
Mm-hmm.
No one will be allowed to film. And this Dr. Emmanuel Brunet-Jailly from the executive director of the Association of Borderland Studies says no one's going to be allowed to vent. Remember, this is something that has been a common practice, especially at keynote events, especially. And nobody is told, oh, you can't do that. But for some reason, at this event, and the reason is, folks, I'll tell you what the reason is. The reason is they tried to avoid telling us the reason because they didn't want it to get out that Nicole Ramos is not transparent, that Nicole Ramos is a person that it appears she has the confidence and the skills and the backing and the reputation to go along with all of the spotlight on her, such that she could answer your questions. She could be straight with you. She could be transparent. She doesn't wilt under a spotlight if you put one on her and say, hey, answer these hard questions. Tell us what you think about this. She can't handle that in truth. She can't handle a difficult question. And they keep her in a bubble of protection to ensure that no one scratches the surface, because if you scratch the surface, just below it is a bunch of problematic, very, very problematic relationships and activities. Al Otro Lados and those of Pueblos Sin Fronteras and many of the organizations associated with Al Otro Lado. If you just scratch, and all you have to do is ask her a pointed question that she should be proud to answer. Well, we are helping this many million migrants, and all of these people are going to get asylum. It's going to be great. Here's my stats. Here's our success rate. We're amazeballs. Why isn't she happy to answer those questions? Why wouldn't she be happy to answer those questions at a public forum for the Association of Borderland Studies, where, according to the people that organized it and the executives, they allowed the press to come and ask questions? So it would look real strange if all of a sudden the keynote speaker was like, I refuse to do any interviews, answer follow-up questions, take direct questions from the audience, or allow anyone to film or live stream any of this. Really? Because then people would go, there is something fishy here. Remember when Hillary Clinton held a closed door meeting with some financial institution and they refused to have anybody film or anything like that?
Yeah.
How does that look?
Sneaky.
Sneaky. It looks sneaky because it is sneaky, and it's sneaky of the people putting on the event that know that no one ever has done it before, to not question it and go, we don't know why, but this person is not proud of their work. They're not proud to tell the public about it. They're not proud to answer any questions. In fact, they refuse to answer questions and they refuse to give interviews. She was marauding around the building for quite a while because you and I went, had a cigarette, went to the bathrooms, and she was just about to leave.
Yep.
I left there, and this is after the altercation with Mr. Larry Gould, who practically pushed Amy and Melinda Oporto out and threatened to call the police on them because they came and asked a question. And that question, by the way, that question that Amy asked of Nicole Ramos was this: are you practicing law in Mexico without a license? Do you have the right to work in Mexico and practice law in Mexico? And she said, Duke, tell him what she said. Tell him it.
Oh, she said no. I'm not practicing law in Mexico. We're only doing education, know your rights education. And then she said, well, are you licensed in California? No, I'm licensed in New York. And but it's immigration is federal, and I can practice that anywhere. And so
It's true.
And she re-clarified and didn't get yelled at like Cindy did when she re-clarified the question. So you're not licensed to practice law in Mexico. Nope, and I don't. I don't practice law in Mexico. I only do that in the United States. That's what she said.
Okay. Note, when me only, try to clarify my question, when she tried to go on a tangent and manipulate statistics so that she could answer that the number of people that will actually gain asylum is unknowable. I was like, no, there's numbers. You know them. Let's account for what you're talking about. Answer the question, please. And this woman shouted at me. This woman, how did she shout at me, Duke? She was rude. Was it rude or was it my perception?
Said, you can't talk. You can't talk. She's talking. You can't talk. And she pointed at you. And you said, oh, hold it. She's answering my question. And I want to clarify what the question was. And then you just kept on going, and then she backed off. So she basically said, you can't talk.
But during the first part of me saying that, hold on, I'm just she's answering my question. She kept saying, no, she's talking. You can't interrupt her. She kept doing that. And when she saw that I was still going to finish, she backed off. But what I saw and what everyone else in that room saw, what Amy saw, what Melinda saw, what Guadalupe saw, what all of the other people saw was how reactionary, how hostile, without reason. I had never seen this woman before in my life. She was to me and exclusively to me and only to me, to the exclusion of everyone else. I think it embarrassed her a little bit that she went on me, because when Amy spoke, she had lost her attack.
Yeah.
She was like, I better not try to look like a crazy person again. Just sit here and these people aren't doing anything wrong. Let them ask a question. Why are we being so hostile again?
Yeah. Forgot.
I don't know. Anyway. This is Nicole Ramos and Dulce. I asked if I was able to take this picture. I asked Guadalupe, we're not filming. Can I at least take a picture? Yes. Go ahead, she said. So I did. And this is, as you know, where we went afterwards. And I mean right afterwards. I drove to the Rapid Response Network. I'm going to tell you more about that later. I'm going to fill in some of the blanks of what happened. Like I said, this is the first of many installments and reports we're going to be covering on this topic. Okay? We were at the conference. We asked these important questions about her work in Mexico. And I intended to cross the border into Mexico and research right after that. So off to the border we went. First, I went to the San Diego Rapid Response Network shelter. I checked that out. I'll be bringing you a little report on what happened there later. But know that right after I left the Association of Borderland Studies conference, after the keynote speech by Nicole Ramos, after I got to ask her one question and one question only, I made it into a two-parter, as you know. She did answer the second one when I said, what responsibility do you and Border Angels and other organizations that you work with have to do follow-up with all of these people you are bringing here to seek asylum? We don't track them, she said.
Yep.
Not my job.
They're on their own.
Good luck.
Mm-hmm.
I left and we went across the border. We went across the border to Tijuana right away. Right away. Oscar picked us up. It was great. Oscar was great. Oscar took us. How many shelters did he take us to, Duke?
Oh, it's
8, 9?
Yeah, 8 or 9.
10? I don't know anymore.
That's right. There's another one. There's another one. There's another one. He had information on all of them, you know.
Oh, my God. This guy is a workhorse. Just like, Cindy, this, that. And literally, like, we jumped in the car and we start, here's the shelter, this one. Here's this, and I'll bring you all of this stuff. Mm-hmm. I'm gonna break down all the things that happened when we were out in Tijuana, piece by piece. I want to just get to some of the crazy nonsense with Nicole Ramos and Otro Lado, because you gotta know what she did. You gotta know what she did. So she was the one that requested that there would be no filming and that there would be no questions and that there would be no interview. Mm-hmm. That's who decided all of that, which happened at the Borderland Studies things. Because they wanted to cover for her. They didn't give us a straight story about why we weren't allowed to ask questions. But that's the truth. So if you're just joining us, this is a Mexican Crossing Lines with Cindy Gomez-Schempp.
And Duke Gomez-Schempp.
You're listening to 88.1 FM, KPPPLP, Fargo Moorhead, where we are adding local color to your airwaves, and we are bringing you a report from our week-long visit to San Diego and to Tijuana, Mexico. Mm-hmm. We went to the Association of Borderland Studies Conference. We did a lot of work in advance of it.
That's right.
Months of work. Some of you know how much pain my arm was on because I was doing double duty work just so that we could get everything ready for a presentation that got cut off, that was buried, that I delivered with a rock in the pit of my stomach because of the way that this man treated my partner, my presenting partner and former president of this association, like she was nothing. And we are telling you what really went down. Those two women that went there to ask a simple question were treated pretty badly for no good reason. People acted very hostile. People acted very jumpy. People acted very paranoid. And really unnecessarily so. I can't fathom what their problem was. Yep. I don't understand it still. Then we left. We went to Mexico. We did a bunch of coverage on the very first day that we showed up. I'm going to be bringing you some more of that coverage in a minute. Just here in a minute, I'm going to tell the story a little bit out of order because I want to get to my point, which is that the first day that I got there, I told Oscar, I have to go to the Agape shelter because I told the pastor I would be coming to see him first. The morning I got up when I was going to the conference to do my presentation, I told the pastor, I'm coming to see you today. I'll be there this afternoon. Are you going to be available? He said yes. Okay? And I like to keep my word. I said I was going to do it, so I wanted to make sure I did that. And Oscar had a bunch of different things he wanted to show me, and I'm like, I want to do all of those things, but we only have a day and a half now because I spent half of my day going to the ABS keynote speech where I was only allowed to ask one question and not even allowed to film. As a member of the press. Yeah. So instead, where did I go? I had, to run basically and do all of these things. Amazingly, we did 7, 3, 4, 5, 6. I think we did 7 interviews at the shelter. How much time did we spend recording at the shelter, Duke? How many hours?
Which one?
Agape, the first day.
I have that all of it. We have hours and hours now. I think I counted 8 or 9 interviews the first day. And these are long interviews. This is Cindy taking her time to basically get to know people and to talk with them and try to find a spot where it's not. And those are all a few pictures, but they're all audio interviews. It's just they're not a camera in their face. Although Oscar did do some filming.
Oscar live streamed.
He live streamed, but we did a lot of audio interviews, and they're all in Spanish. So you're going to have to be patient with translating, and and you're hearing directly from the people.
Yeah,
that's what we've been talking
important.
about. We've been talking about a movement is led by the people. And then the people. Incredible stories. You just wait. You wait till we can tell you that stuff in our upcoming shows.
Well, I'm going to tell a little bit of it tonight, because it's relevant to what I'm talking about here. But so we go over to the Agape shelter. We're doing all of these interviews, right? And I'll tell you one of the most important interviews pertaining to what Nicole Ramos told us about how she doesn't do legal work. In fact, one of the things that she said, by the way, when she responded to that question was that you said she only does humanitarian training. That part you remembered, dude.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But the part you forgot was that she said that they only make people their clients once they're in the U.S.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I remember that now.
They only take them on as clients once they're in the U.S. of A. Okay? And that's obviously not true. I'm going to show you that today. But that's what she said. Maybe that's why she didn't want to be recorded, because she didn't want anyone to be able to prove that she's a liar and that she lies to people in America, at conferences, to academics, to who knows, probably to other lawyers groups, like she did when she went to Yale. Who knows what she's telling them? But what they are doing is far, far from giving human rights trainings. Very, very far from that. They're doing fake marriages. They're getting involved with smuggling, helping people get smuggled into the United States. They are working with very closely with people that are that were involved with the kidnapping of a child from the Agape shelter. I've told you all of these things before.
Mm-hmm.
So when we went, this photo, in fact, of us was taken right down the street, in the street where the arch is. It's a pretty well-known street there. One street over from where we took this picture is Enclave Caracol. Now, you've heard me talk about Enclave Caracol a lot. This is the back of the building. This is the Food Not Bombs. This is the Enclave Caracol. This is the spot. This is the place where they do these human rights trainings that Nicole Ramos said that they do. This is also where they give legal advice to people. This is also where they have a clinic. This is also the place where they have their meetings, where they hold press conferences. And it's a place that I had noticed that the activists were very commonly at. I didn't understand until I went to Tijuana and talked to some of the migrants at the Agape shelter that this is a base of operation for Otro Lado. That this is a hub and a base of operation for many organizations, but primarily Otro Lado. That Otro Lado doesn't just do their legal work and their trainings out of there. They basically manage it. This is what one of the migrants told me. That she and another guy, whose name he told me on the recording of my interview with him, were the ones that basically ran that building. And what did I do when we got there? What was the breakdown of what we did when we got there? Did we go in Enclave Caracol? Did we go inside?
No.
What happened?
We went outside and across the street, and there was some people. Oscar was saying he had never been there. He didn't have the directions for the place. He didn't know where it was, and he found out from somebody. And then we walked in, and there was a family sitting in front of across the street. A family sitting in front of a garage door in a little shop, and another guy standing over here. And Oscar and Cindy went and introduced themselves and just said, is that is that the place? And they're like, yeah, that's the place. And they just started talking, just started visiting. And Cindy started talking to this young man, and he was totally willing to talk to her. And Oscar was talking with the woman and her child, and another man was there, and just carrying on conversations, asking questions, and people were totally willing to give information from their experience. So it was, very calm. It was a nice sunny day. The street wasn't very crowded. Hardly any people were on the street. A few people walking by and a few people hauling stuff back and forth. But very, very calm, and conversing out on the street in the sun, pretty much. And
At one point, I turned around. I looked around me because I noticed there was movement. Oscar was talking to a group of about 3 or 4 people, mostly to the woman in the group.
Yeah.
Migrants from the caravan, who he said had gotten services from Al Otro Lado. He was talking to them. I was talking to a 21-year-old kid, and from Honduras. And he had a very, very quiet voice, didn't he, Duke? He was very, very, very quiet voice. That kid and I were talking, and I had my back to the building during my interviewing him. So I wasn't even looking in the direction of this building. I notice that all of a sudden Oscar is not talking to this family anymore. He's going down the street about, like he was going across a corner, basically. Stood on the other, stood over there, far away from me.
Yeah.
A good distance. Like a distance of crossing the street, basically. Even though it was just down the same street there where we were. And started live streaming and pointing his camera at the building. So I turn around and look at the building, and I realize there's a dude at the door at the bottom that is pointing a camera at me. While I'm talking to the migrant.
Yeah.
And if you could point out that door at the bottom, it's behind the comments there, but you can see there's a door. And that is where I noticed that somebody was pointing a camera at me. And I didn't really focus too long on that. I just kind of noticed that was happening. And then when I was done, Oscar came over, still talking on his live stream, and asked me what, the migrant had said. And then I talked about that on his live stream. Well, you guys saw it, okay? I don't have to regurgitate the whole thing.
Exactly.
Point thing is, then we went somewhere else. Oh, we went to Little Haiti.
Yep.
So we get to Little Haiti. By the way, let me read that comment on that live stream real quick. I thought that was interesting. If you scroll down a little bit there, you'll see there is a comment on this live stream. A woman named Victoria says in Spanish, I asked myself why no one has reported them. She's talking about Al Otro Lado, or the volunteers inside of Enclave Caracol working with them. I wonder why no one has reported them if everyone knows what they're doing in Tijuana. Those of you in Tijuana should be reporting them. We should not allow this to happen in our country. That's what a Mexican said about what these groups are doing in Mexico. That's the voice that isn't getting heard. People like Nicole Ramos and even some of these people who defended her at the Borderland Conference are committing lateral violence to silence the voices of the people most affected by this issue. The people in Mexico and Mexicans. That's what's happening. And Nicole Ramos is one of the cheerleaders of doing that. After we as we arrived at the next place, which was Little Haiti, and we'll be bringing you a whole coverage of what happened there, Oscar gets a message. And it's from Nicole Ramos. in the time that it took us to drive, to leave, to drive over there, Nicole Ramos was already messaging a harassing text to Oscar saying, I believe you're looking for me. She has a vivid imagination.
Yeah, really. We didn't know she was there.
No, but I thought, I said to Oscar, I said, oh, I bet she was there because she just said, I believe you're looking for me. And it happened right after we left.
One thing you didn't mention is that when Oscar started, people started filming you and Oscar. And what happened is that as soon as Oscar whipped out his camera and started live streaming, you couldn't see very well in the building because it's very dark glass. But you could see people running up the stairs, people running all the way to the top of the building, people whipping out very big walkie-talkies, whipping out computers, whipping out cameras, standing at the windows. It looked like they thought they were being raided. And I thought, what's going on? I'm like, are these people going to come out and we're going to have a confrontation? So I just stood there and said, okay, well, be ready for anything. We're not really doing anything. We're talking to some people here. We haven't even been close to their doorway. And Oscar is live streaming. They started going nuts. They started like running around, and I don't know what they were, if they were shredding paper, if they were burning boxes, if they were hiding people. I have no idea. But that activity was whipping around. I thought, wow. And then, later I said to Oscar, I said, I didn't know if people were going to come out, we were going to get in a confrontation. He said, these people are cowards. They're not going to come out and do anything. He said, but he was just live streaming saying, what are you doing in there? What are you doing? And, so that in the context was really important to know.
But you know why they do that, Duke? Do you know why they do that nonsense? Because they do that so that they can go, oh, they're after us. They're doing things. They're hurting us.
Yeah.
Let me tell you, folks, she sent something. I don't know because I haven't seen it yet. I've been waiting to see what exactly it was that she felt was on this live stream that was a threat from me. But she said that I went to Tijuana to harass her. Me, Cindy Gomez-Schempp. It doesn't seem like that from the context of this text message where she contacted Oscar. We went to Enclave Caracol, a vegan restaurant that's free, where they serve free food to people that are poor and that are migrants, but also to all of the activists, lawyers, and doctors and other people that are working with Otro Lado, which are manipulating these and exploiting these people in the caravan. And it is a hub of the work for Otro Lado. It is, according to the migrant I spoke to, that said that she and this other guy named Daniel or David, I can't remember exactly which one it was. I have to listen to the recording, okay? So I'm not positive. I talked to so many people. I got so much information. I'm just glad that I recorded my interviews so that I can go back and find out what happened. Mm-hmm. And we were so exhausted.
Yep. We
were exhausted. We're like jet lag and running around and I'm old, y'all. It's hard.
Yeah.
Our place we were staying had how many stairs, Duke?
37.
It was difficult. So she said, I went to Tijuana to harass her. I went to Tijuana to do my damn job. I went to Tijuana to investigate and to report back to you, my audience, what's happening in Tijuana. And when I went there, I went to the different places that I wanted to investigate further, to talk to migrants that are living there, that are the recipients, I guess, if you will, of the legal advice, the coaching, the whatever you want to call what Al Otro Lado is doing, and many of these Border Support Network groups with the caravan. That's what I went to do. And one of the places that I know is the hub of distribution, of donations, of these phony marriages, of press conferences being held, of organizing happening, of them having a clinic, and all of the above is Enclave Caracol. That's the spot. I was not going to go to Tijuana and not go and see this building and check out the size, what it can do, what they can do in it, how many people are coming and going, and how many migrants I can find that are actually getting helped. It was like finding a needle in a haystack. They're taking in millions of dollars for their clients, the migrants, but you can't hardly find nobody that'll say they're actually getting represented by them. You can't hardly. They got the people that went across the border to request asylum from the Agape shelter that I interviewed got a packet. I will be bringing you the pages from that packet so you could see the packet for yourself. I took pictures of it. 3 of the pages, front and back, I believe, have the names of all of these different legal associations that migrants can get assistance from in requesting their asylum. All of the migrants told me none of the numbers on that list answer the phone. All of those organizations are raising money to help these migrants. None of the migrants can get a hold of these organizations. None of the ones I talked to anyway. And furthermore, Otro Lado's not even on it. They're not even on the list, and they're the ones that are getting the most money and giving the most legal advice, according to everyone I spoke to.
Yep.
Go figure.
Mm-hmm.
Go figure. But here's a really interesting thing. She texts Oscar, and she assumed he was looking for her. You ain't that important. But she wanted to make herself the victim, folks. That's what these people do best. Oh, they were out there harassing me. No, we're doing our jobs. You're projecting because that's what you do to people. You harass, silence, and threaten anyone that poses a threat to your blatant, fraudulent, and criminal behavior that no one is holding you accountable to. That is what makes you uncomfortable. And so you perceive anybody doing investigative work, investigating you or the activities of your allies and colleagues as a threat, because that's what I was doing. I was interviewing a migrant that you refused to help at the time that you claimed I was harassing you. And who was it? Pick someone. Was it Oscar that was harassing you? Or was it I that was harassing you?
Was it me?
Or was it Duke? Who are you going to blame now? Let's see. So this is what she said to Oscar. Remember, she contacted him, but then accused him of harassing her in the same text. I believe you're looking for me, she says. Instead of harassing my volunteers, perhaps you should schedule an appointment to speak with me. I don't know how responsive she'll be. I asked her for an interview in front of everyone right after she gave her keynote, and she said, I don't have time. I said, I'll just ask a few questions. It'll be 5 minutes or less. I'm sorry. I still don't have time. And then she waited around the conference, banged around from here to there. Like I said, we went outside, had a cigarette, came inside, went to the bathroom, and ran into her as she left. Right?
Mm-hmm.
So here's the second part of these texts. He responds. First, there was an auto response from his moderators, and then he responded as we were literally going in. So he was very curt because we were walking on very unsolid ground where we were.
Yeah, it's a Little Haiti shelter.
Yeah, Little Haiti. He's like, let me have your number. He's like, okay, let me respond to her. Then I think he was going to just give her a ring, maybe. And he says, when he had a chance to actually message her, first of all, for me to harass someone, there needs to be an action and a reaction. Never had contact with one of your workers. Second of all, I'm a Mexican citizen born and raised in Tijuana, so I can exercise my right in my own country to record and do coverage in a public place. Just remember Article 33 of the Mexican Constitution. As a lawyer, you should know that. Just for you to know, it's a public place, and I'm exercising my freedom of speech. And I am Mexican, as you claim to be too. Nobody harassed none of your workers. I have evidence. They were the ones who started recording first. I am in Mexico. It is more my country than it is your so-called workers or volunteers. I am only exercising my constitutional right, and no thank you. I will answer you in the most professional way because you're a lady. And if you want to talk to me, make an appointment. Thank you, and God bless you. Yeah, you make an appointment to talk to me. You're the one messaging me, Nicole Ramos, he says.
Yeah.
And she responds. She says, as a Mexican citizen, you should then be aware of criminal laws against harassment and civil penalties for defamation. Threat much, Nicole Ramos? And then she goes on. I have no need to make an appointment with you. You're the one talking to him on Messenger. You're the one that reached out to him. I have no need to make an appointment with you because you are a person without education. Right to the insults.
Yeah, okay.
But one rather in need of an education. And as a proud Mexican, so she's like, I am educated unlike you. Wow, what a snob. Yeah. Right?
Right.
You are an uneducated Mexican. Wow. Mm-hmm. What a racist, laterally abusive, laterally oppressive thing. And remember, she's talking to a Mexican. And I believe that she was in that building, not just because she said, I believe you were looking for me when we just left that building, but also because she then went on to say, I went to Mexico, to Tijuana, to harass her.
Yeah.
So I'm like, how can I harass someone that's not even in Tijuana? She must have been there.
You never saw her.
I never saw her, but she had to have been there. She's given that away. She's given that much away. So now she's harping at a Mexican while she's in Mexico, sitting in Mexico, and telling him condescendingly, you stupid, uneducated Mexican. I don't have to reach out to you, even though you are. You're the one messaging him. You're the one talking to him. And he just told you, why don't you make an appointment?
Yeah.
And she says, and as a proud Mexican citizen, you should know what the U.S. government does to your fellow citizens when they seek asylum. We don't seek asylum, Nicole. Mexicans are not allowed to seek asylum. That doesn't happen. It happens very rarely, and when it does, almost all of the time, they are denied asylum. Mexicans aren't allowed even to request asylum in most cases. In most cases. I know this. I work with immigration attorneys. How do you not know that? How do you not know that? How can you call yourself an immigration attorney and know that Mexicans, by and large, are never given the right to request asylum? Why are you acting like you care about or are helping Mexicans as you berate a Mexican, as you laterally oppress and censor this Mexican, as you attack Mexicans? What a hypocrite. Mm-hmm. I am the Mexican helper, you stupid Mexican. She's so... And then she goes on. Do you know? You should know what the government does to your fellow citizens when they seek asylum, including separating parents from their children. Or do you not believe your fellow citizens have the right to information about their rights and the horrors awaiting them in immigration detention? Except that's not all you do, Nicole. You don't just give people human rights trainings. I'll show everyone in just a moment that you don't just do that. She says, oh, this is what Oscar responded. 60 million Mexicans in poverty, 28 million in critical condition because of this caravan. Our women are getting raped in Chiapas. Police officers are getting hurt. Children are being trafficked. Fake families are being built. Fake marriages are being done. And in our country, Mexico is suffering. Our children are suffering. They are invading our borders. You should educate yourself on the International Immigration Pact. First, it's Mexico. First is the people of Tijuana. With your disrespectful response, you just demonstrated the level of education that you have. So if you care about your country, Mexico, you should remember this phrase, always your country first. Prefiero morir de pie que vivir una vida de rodillas. It was a pleasure talking to you. And please take care of yourself, because first is Mexico, and Mexico is for Mexicans. Everybody else is welcome, but please migrate correctly, like the International Immigration Pact says. Migrate documented, peacefully, and with a purpose. It wouldn't take a blind man to see how this caravan is damaging the sovereignty of Mexico. Take care, Nicole. It's been a pleasure.
See ya, wouldn't want to be you.
That's what he said to her.
Mm-hmm.
What happened after that? Well, I told you. She went and said, I went to TJ just to harass her. What is all of this clamoring and crying about? Why was she freaking out when I started talking to migrants outside of that building? Why would she have such a problem having me in Tijuana or at this conference to ask questions?
Mm-hmm.
Well, because look at what I found at the shelter. This is one of the interviews I did over at the shelter. Pastor Albert is out front there. This is his shelter. Behind him, the Agape shelter. Okay. Sorry. I needed a little bit of sugar. This is a legal contract. You want to read what it says at the top there, Duke? What's that emblem?
Otro Lado's logo.
It's Al Otro Lado's logo. That's the lawyers that Nicole Ramos helped, the organization she helped to found. Okay? This is the organization Nicole Ramos helped to start. What does it say at the top there? I know it's in Spanish, Duke, but I can tell.
Contrato para consulta legal.
Yeah, what do you think that means?
Contract to consult legal.
Contract?
Legal contract.
For legal services?
Yeah.
Consultation, legal services. What does it say? What does it say in the next word? Services. What is the service?
Consult.
A legal consult. That's the service you get. What do you get? You get legal services. What kind of services? Legal. What's the next thing say? Well, it has the signature of the person, which we have blocked out, as you can see. And it says, so-and-so designated from here on out as the client. What?
Yeah.
I thought Nicole Ramos said she didn't get no clients. Her organization didn't sign up clients in Mexico because they don't practice the law there. They only practice the law. They only sign them up once they're in the U.S.
Mm-hmm.
What the hell is this then? How is that dude a client? Y'all can see that it says el cliente, right?
Mm-hmm.
Can you read that?
Yep.
I don't care if you don't speak Spanish. This is black and white, easy to understand. Contrato, contract.
Mm-hmm.
Consulta, consult. Legal, legal.
Yep.
Al otro lado, logo.
Mm-hmm.
Servicio, service. Come on, guys. Anybody can understand what this says. What does it say at the bottom? El cliente, the client, contracts with Al Otro Lado Inc. for legal consultation.
Mm-hmm.
What does that say? Underlined and in bold?
Legal consultation.
Legal consultation. Does that say human rights training there, Duke?
Nope, it doesn't.
I'm squinting. I've got my glasses on. But I want to make sure I am not incorrect. Because, and there were many witnesses, Duke, Guadalupe, Amy, Melinda, Lots of witnesses that heard this woman lie. We don't do anything but know your rights training in Mexico. We are not authorized, and we don't do it. Lie, 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 lie. What does it say with the cost? Number 2. What does it say? No habrá costo. You know what that means? There will be no charges for the services mentioned above. Let me tell you. Folks, let me tell you. I talked to some people, and I told them about this. I showed them what I found. I said to a migrant, look, I'm like, why aren't you getting the help from the Al Otro Lado people? Because it costs too much money. I said, excuse me? It costs too much money? What do you mean it costs too much money? It's free. It's pro bono. Nicole Ramos runs around telling people she got a 20-year-old car and shoes with holes in them. This is a free service. What do you mean it costs too much money? Oh, only the first time it's free, she said. Only the first time. After that, they want $5,000. I said, what? $5,000? Yeah. And by then, like, you're stranded. What are you going to do? These people go all the way down to Central America. They go down all the way to the southern border with Mexico. They meet up with caravans and they tell folks, hey, if you want free legal services, come to TJ. Our offices are right over there across the border in the United States. We're called Al Otro Lado. Come and we will give you free legal services. But once you get all the way up to Tijuana, the farthest travel from the southern border you can go, they go, oops, $5,000, please. Meanwhile, at the same time, they're raising millions of dollars to give pro bono legal services. Are you guys smelling a scam? I am. Anyway, go back to the contract, Duke. Let's go through this contract. Limitations of the contract. El cliente entiende que la consulta legal es solamente para recomendación, consejos y no incluye representación de ninguna clase de ningún otro servicio. Además, este contrato es para una sola consulta y no da derecho a consejo legal en el futuro. This client understands that this legal consultation is only to give recommendations or legal advice and does not include representation of any kind or any other type of service. In fact, this contract is just for this one consultation, and it doesn't give you a right to any future legal advice. B, the client understands that they could be different legal options, legitimate legal options acerca de la misma situación for the same situation y que la opinión del al otro lado puede variar de otros abogados, and that the opinion given to you, the legal advice given to you by al otro lado could vary from other attorneys' opinions. El cliente está libre de conseguir opiniones legales adicionales si desea hacerlo. The client is free to get other legal opinions if they so wish. And C, el cliente ha dado o dará información correcta sobre su dirección actual, número de teléfono y otros medios por los cuales al otro lado puede comunicar cuando es necesario. The client will give us their correct and proper address and number, telephone number, and other means by which al otro lado can communicate with them when it's necessary. El cliente entiende que es su responsabilidad proveer información verdadera acerca de su caso al representante del otro lado. Client understands it is their responsibility to provide proper and correct information about their case to the representative of al otro lado. Al proveer información falsa o no proveer toda la información o documentos requeridos, al otro lado Inc. no tendrá la obligación de completar la consulta legal. Providing false information or not providing all the information or documents required to al otro lado Inc. means we will not have the obligation to complete our legal consultation with you. And then finally, it talks about confidentiality. Al Otro Lado, which is a legal organization that respects the rights of confidentiality of each and every single client that seeks our legal assistance and services here. Al Otro Lado cannot provide any information about its clients to any other person or entity without the prior consent of our clients. And then the client signs. And then at the bottom, a representative of Al Otro Lado signs. It appears that that name is Guy Jurpal. What do you think the last name is?
I can't read it. I can't hardly see.
Jurpal, it looks like, is the name. Maybe from India? I have no idea. Anyway, let me know what you think that name says. I don't know. Next, I want to show you the intake. This is the pin they give for your file with your file number on it. And it says you go to that website at the top and type in your pin and boom. Next. Go to the next one, honey. Then it says here you can access photos of your documents with the information on this card. Enter the address at the top of the card in a search bar and it will ask you for your record number, birth date, and PIN number. Share all of this information on this card with someone you trust so that you can access. I will have to wait a moment, please. So that you can access it if you need it. Before crossing the border, destroy this card.
Oh my God.
Dun, 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 dun.
It's Mission Impossible.
Destroy your card, destroy your card, destroy your card, destroy. Mm-hmm. Why would you need to destroy your card?
So it has no evidence that they're coaching you.
What?
That they're telling you what to say, telling you what to do. You know.
That's what you saw.
Bizarre.
Did you see that?
That's bizarre. I hadn't seen this material before tonight's show. I'm like, what? Destroy this. Destroy this before
card.
You cross the border because you don't want it on you.
Folks, I want to tell you what is behind. I want us to understand what is behind all of this. You're harassing us and they're harassing us and then this is happening when it's not happening. And why all these people are acting hella defensive like we're going to attack them, shutting us down, censoring us, and making themselves out to be the victims. Because it's been going on for a while. And it's all part of an orchestrated plan to shut people down and to target them. One of those people has been Melinda Oporto and Amy Sutton. As you can see in this post from the Asylum Seekers Caravan Support Network, Evan K. Duke III posted about Melinda Oporto in that group. Why? So that the activists connected to Antifa, connected to BAM, etc., could attack her, because that's what they do. They send people to attack people that are providing information that threatens to expose them. This guy, as I told you, is the founder of this group, Asylum Seekers Caravan Support Network. This guy has been investigated a number of times and is one of the main leaders of this border support network, founder, working with Al Otro Lado and these other groups. And as if you scroll down the comments, it says someone posts in this page, in this group that protects the caravan and people from Al Otro Lado. Christina Russell says they are also on True Conservative Minutes on YouTube, where they stalk and harass churches, follow buses dropping off asylum seekers. They live stream. Melinda and Amy are not professional reporters. Many people in America who are documenting what is happening at the border are not professional reporters or investigators. Some of them don't have the most PC language, but they're still reporting information that matters to them in their hometowns. And I know a lot of these folks come off sounding racist. It used to be a very abrasive thing for me. I was easily triggered, but I'm not going to stop listening to somebody that is bringing me valid information, is showing me proof of what's going on, simply because they're wearing a hat I don't like.
Yeah.
That's what's going on in these groups, guys. And then this Carena Arcea Paez posts, yes, Melinda Oporto and Oscar El Blue live stream together.
Oh, yeah.
Now, why is it important to connect Melinda to Oscar El Blue? Why do they want to connect those two people? Even though, yes, we may watch each other's content or look at each other's content, but there's not necessarily any connection between these folks. But why would they do it? Well, let me show you. Here's Oscar El Blue being posted by Border Support Network founder and leader Evan Duke III in their Asylum Seekers Caravan Support Network page when it was first called that. Yeah. Now it's called the Border Support Network, okay? Mm-hmm. And you just saw what they posted in it recently about Melinda, but this is something they posted long ago about Oscar and why he would want to then, after he made this alert and call to action on the page, why he would then want to use Oscar again and connect him to Melinda. Let's read this post. Duke, you read it.
Okay, one more.
You got a gravelly, deep voice. You can do this.
Yeah, I also have the name Duke.
That's true.
That's not the Duke you were looking for.
No.
It's Evan K. Duke III, Asylum Seekers Caravan Support Network. Call to action with 2 red buttons on both sides of it. Here are the links to the groups threatening to march on refugees today. Can we get some support to look at and expose what they're up to today? We're holding a solidarity vigil at Benito Juarez right now. Please post activities and comments and hashtags solidarity. Now, I can't quite read this stuff. Maybe I'll make it a little bit bigger. Sometimes it's hard with this. Okay. Reference page, HPS Facebook. It's got some links there. Seems probable that one of them would have a live stream up during today's fascist protest.
So he's calling the person that's protesting, or he says is going to be protesting, a fascist.
Yes. Oporto and Sutton are both tagged as being expected to be present.
By the way, they never went, and neither there was no. And then someone says, "Who are Oporto and Sutton?"
Yeah. If you look at those Facebook links I sent, they are 2 of the agitators from yesterday.
Okay. And then
on the other side,
he shares another part and says, okay, it looks like they're part of the fascist protest today, and at least one of them has connections to fascist groups in Texas and Arizona. These are the person making the accusations against Melinda, against Amy, and against Evan Duke, and against Oscar is Evan Duke, the anarchist, anti-fascist, connected to a bunch of violent people with arrest records that I've shown you that are part of these Antifa groups in California. Evan K. Duke III, the founder of the Border Support Network, is the one making these accusations. They're laughable, but he is the first person that called Oscar a fascist, labeled him as such, and to discredit him, basically. And it's not difficult to take somebody that's passionate like Oscar, who is talking about how, I used to hate Trump, and I couldn't stand the way that he talked and what he said. It made me really sick, but I started to respect what he was doing when I watched our own president, AMLO, allow all of this to happen to our country without saying anything or stopping it. You say what you want about Trump, but I'm starting to respect the dude because he's actually doing something to try to stop this from happening to his country. Of course, a lot of people immediately were like, oh, he's a Trump supporter. I'm like, for Pete's sake, he's a Mexican. He can't vote in our country. What do you mean he's a Trump supporter? Like,
exactly.
What?
Mm-hmm.
And what if somebody... why do we care what people are voting? Why is that now the criteria for you to classify as someone as being part of a hate group? It seems ridiculous to me. It's disturbing.
Yeah.
Yes, there are some really ignorant people. There are some people that say some really horrible things, some really embarrassing things. But that and being a Nazi are very far apart. We need to acknowledge that. Here is another person that wanted to make light of the fact that we were censored in our conference visit to San Diego with the ABS conference. And she posted it in the Border Support Network for Evan Duke and everyone else to see.
Yep.
And this, as you can see, is a post from hers that she made on the day that I was denied the right to tape our own presentation, where Guadalupe was yelled at right up until the point that we went up to present, and where we, presented in this very hostile environment. And and Guadalupe was so flustered, my time was cut down to 5 minutes or less. And here's what Vanessa had to say about my live stream explaining what had happened at the ABS conference. "Oh no," she says, "looks like Cindy's trip to her conference wasn't as great as she thought it was going to be. Lol." Yep. One look at your radio page and little bits of listening, you sound evil and hater and racist. And yes, a Trump lover. Lol. Poor Cindy. Lol.
Wow. That's a misinterpretation.
So they're celebrating this rant that that these people are now saying. Anybody that is, if you agree with something this administration has said or is doing, you're a Trump supporter.
Yep.
And that is synonymous with racist.
Mm-hmm.
And those that have entrenched themselves completely into the Caravan Support Network posture are attacking anyone that questions anything they do as a Nazi, as a fascist, and as a racist.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. And that's being done to discredit those folks. Make no mistake about it.
Yep.
Underneath that post of hers, you can see is my video, my live stream that I did right after I calmed down enough to tell you how we were treated. Because, frankly, right after it happened, I was just too upset to do a live stream about it. And at the very bottom, in the second post, you will see the comments. Here is one of the comments you will see at the bottom is from Vanessa Bolin. Now, many of you who've just started watching my show don't know who that is. When I started to research these activists, these pseudo-activists, after Standing Rock, one of the people that was involved in tearing Mary Trujillo, the elder, 82-year-old Oglala Lakota elder with dementia, that was put in an early grave thanks to folks from this pseudo-activist movement at Standing Rock, and let Kathleen Bennett sit in a jail rotting for 6 months, and they were going to leave her there for 20 years.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't care. One of those people, one of the greatest, most egregious activists that did this was Vanessa Bolin, the first person commenting there.
Wow.
Because she was the person that wrote the paramedic report that was used in court, that was used by the police, Morton County, and by the prosecutor to charge Kathleen Bennett and put her in jail. Vanessa Bolin, more than anybody, knew especially well that Mary Trujillo did not need to go to the hospital, that there were no signs of rape or forced rape, much less any signs of any kind of negligence on the part of Kathleen Bennett toward her mom. And yet, even though she said that, even though she told other people that, she wrote a report, she gave it to police, and she put an elderly woman with dementia that was a poor historian for herself on a ambulance without her daughter. She allowed that poor woman to go rot in a jail. And even though activists, supporters of hers, and other people around her told her, this woman is dying in a hospital. Her daughter is facing 20 years. Are you going to do anything? Why won't you say anything? You know she's innocent. She did nothing. She did nothing to try to correct what she did. Vanessa Boland has blood on her hands. She put Mary Trujillo in an early grave because she is a liar. She is a fraud, a deceiver, a person that framed an innocent woman who is an Oglala Lakota survivor of the only people that survived the Wounded Knee Massacre. She is a descendant of one of the only people that survived that massacre. Vanessa Boland committed lateral violence. Vanessa Boland recently discovered that she was Cherokee, started participating as an activist and actress in Indian garb, and then usurped the words, the power of two Oglala Lakota women native to this area, and put one of them in jail and put another one in an early grave. And she had this to say about me. This fraud that framed an innocent Native American woman and took her place, erased her face, erased these people's words. Someone that just recently started telling people she's an Indian when she had never talked about Native heritage previously. Vanessa Boland. She had this to say. Trump lovers and his defenders are racist and bigots. What about Vanessa Boland?
Yeah, really.
Don't you think it's lateral violence to pretend Indian, to suddenly discover you're an Indian and usurp the words of real people that are from this area? To put an innocent woman in a jail and leave her there to rot and not have to answer for what you did? To steal donations from people out there, to defraud people for donations, for your work as a first responder, for your work with the Medic and Healer Council when you were framing people and putting them in jail as part of what you did at Standing Rock? And you have the audacity to call Trump lovers racist bigots. What about what you did? What about the lateral violence that you committed against two elders that you should show respect for? Mary Trujillo, Kathleen Bennett. And Éxodo Autónomo, a very interesting page that seems to be a border support network propaganda site, said in Spanish, her visit to Enclave Caracol was also a failure. Estrepitosamente. Ha 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 ha. So it was a colossal failure, basically. And then it says, it says underneath in translation, her visit to Enclave Caracol failed miserably too.
Yeah. I
wouldn't say that. I got an interview with a migrant that told us how Otro Lado really operates and that they wouldn't actually help people. I talked to a bunch of people, one of whom told me you guaranteed him asylum. The guy that showed me the contract said you guaranteed him asylum, that Al Otro Lado guaranteed him asylum after asking only one question alone. He said, I thought it was weird. I don't know if I trust him. I believe in God, and I don't think I should do something that's wrong, that's not correct, because it will be taken from me if I get it the wrong way. And I don't believe it's right because they only asked me this one question. They said, do you have American citizen parents? Do you have American citizen relatives in the U.S.? And I said, yes, because my sister and my mom, or a brother and my mom, somebody and his mom are American citizens, but they're estranged from him. And they said, doesn't matter, you're getting asylum. And I felt like, but how can they guarantee me that? A judge has to decide that. And I said, yep, that's true. Judge has to decide that. That's unethical to tell someone that you guarantee them that they're going to have an outcome XYZ. because you can't. Because you're not supposed to do that because you don't know. But that's what these folks do. That's what Al Otro Lado does. Here's one of their posts. In this post, Al Otro Lado is complaining about how this was posted. You told me, Duke, wasn't this posted on the day we went to Tijuana?
Yes.
Look at what it says. The day we went to Tijuana, the day we were at Enclave Caracol, the day that she claimed that Oscar harassed her, even though she was the one that was messaging him.
Yeah.
Then she later said, I went there and harassed her, even though I was interviewing a migrant outside and across the street from the building that she claims she was in. Al Otro Lado staff has been under siege in Mexico for more than a year. The harassment against staff has included death threats, smears, and harassment, including being photographed and followed in Tijuana. All three of our directors were put on government surveillance lists that leaked in March. It's so absurdly clear that those currently in power are perfectly fine with fascist tactics to disrupt the protection of human rights. Yes, this is our new reality, but we will never back down. We stand in solidarity with our fellow defenders experiencing the same kind of harassment, yet continue to show up every day because humanity matters. And then they tag Centro de Ayuda Humanitaria Pueblos Sin Fronteras America AC, Border Angels, New Sanctuary Coalition, and the National Lawyers Guild. And after that, they posted this article from the Boston Review. It's interesting. You should check it out. Lots of people, Pueblos Sin Fronteras, many of these organizations, many of these groups in the Border Support Network were posting this article. And we're saying something similar to that. Oh, woe is me. We have been targeted unfairly.
That's right.
These people are checking us out. We do nothing but uphold human rights. Nothing whatsoever. For all of the denials that Al Otro Lado and Nicole Ramos has made, I found this particular article very interesting because she complains about the accusations made against her by a whole host of different organizations on both sides of the border. And not once finds it ironic that she doesn't hear that people on both sides of the border find what she is doing to be disturbing and unethical and possibly criminal. That doesn't seem to get in there. It's not registering inside. She's like, can you believe this? Interpol, the FBI, Department of Homeland Security, CIA, blah, blah, Cindy Gomez-Schempp, everyone is after me. And they're all wrong. And every one of them is a fascist. She said that CBP frequently demonizes their work, that they tell people that Ramos is a fake attorney who dispenses false information, and despite promising pro bono services, charges fees. That's what the migrants are saying. That's what the migrants are saying to them. And they're telling the migrants what other migrants have said because I'm saying the same thing. Maybe that's why they're calling me a fascist, Duke.
I guess.
Even though I'm showing you proof, that doesn't matter? Okay. It talks about how they're in litigation with the Trump administration. I will share the link here for you guys so you guys can go check out all the whining and complaining. It covers Senator Wyden and Grassley's request to CBP to let them know why they're being investigated. And it talks about the coverage in the Intercept, which I've told you has been intercepted. We've known that ever since Standing Rock. Mm-hmm. There's troublesome stuff going on over there. They're very upset. They're very upset. They want everyone to know they are the persecuted. They are so persecuted. Unfairly, by the way, because they don't do stuff that's bad. Here's a tweet that was posted by ICE, to which they responded thusly. This is the second page of the post with the Al Otro Lado lawyers. This is the tweet by ICE first. It's below that. ICE tweeted, fake families are being formed to cross our border and avoid detention, meaning they want to get out of detention quickly. ICE, HSI, is working with CBP, Customs and Border Patrol, to stop individuals, networks, and organizations facilitating child smuggling and document fraud to illegally enter the U.S. Organizations facilitating child smuggling and document fraud to illegally enter the U.S. And Nicole was like, if the shoe fits, I'll respond al otro lado by saying this. Great to see you care so much about fake families while having zero concern or accountability for the real families you separated and destroyed. Bravo. So she felt that was directed at her and her organization, and al otro lado responded to ICE.
Wow.
With Border Patrol tagged in the tweet. Hey, why don't you focus on this other thing instead of focusing on the crime and we're doing?
Exactly.
Incredible. And then Alex Mensing also posted Pueblos Sin Fronteras, which works hand in glove with Al Otro Lado, posted this piece, which I'm going to share with you from the, I don't know. We'll see at the bottom. Would you read this, Duke? From Alex Mensing, sure. One of the leaders of Al Otro Lado. Also on the list being investigated along with Nicole Ramos.
Alex Mensing is with Carlos Intiano and 18 others. Great piece by Lauren Karasik, who met with Pueblos Sin Fronteras in Tijuana as part of the National Lawyers Guild delegation to the border earlier this year. The group Pueblos Sin Fronteras, PSF, has accompanied caravans to provide humanitarian assistance and draw attention to violations of the national and international right to seek asylum. In recent months, a number of PSF activists have been sent to secondary inspection, which often include lengthy questioning and invasive searches of phones and cameras. And some have said authorities focus their questions on members of the group, 10 of whom to appear in the leaked database. PSF member and U.S. citizen Alex Mensing has been sent to secondary inspection on multiple occasions. While one of the group's leaders in Tijuana, also a U.S. citizen, was handcuffed to a bench for 5 hours while CBP officers questioned him about the caravan. That was Evan Duke. He told that story. Several other PSF members, let's go to the next one.
Pueblos Sin Fronteras members.
Yeah, they're abbreviating it now. Recounted harassment they experienced while speaking with a delegation from the National Lawyers Guild, including being followed and beaten by Mexican authorities after launching a campaign against police abuse of migrants. And then they have that article again, right there.
And that's in the Boston Review.
Wow.
Same thing being shared by Al Otro Lado.
Wow.
Okay. And then we have the article that was published in Task and Purpose. Now, this is something that came out very recently. Perhaps this is what they were all bracing for. Perhaps this is why they have to tout this loudest of megaphones, saying, we are being victimized. We are the victims. Because they're being investigated, and it keeps coming out, and it keeps coming out, and it keeps coming out. It was leaked by, what was it, Duke? That NBC 7 in...
Yep, San Diego, NBC 7 in San Diego.
those were the first people that this story came out of, I believe, if
Yeah.
I'm not mistaken.
Yep.
The San Diego Union Tribune also covered it, and some others as well in major media. I believe, maybe was it New York Times or Washington Post?
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, it got out there. It got out there that there was a list, there was an investigation, and the authorities in the United States have been kind of tight-lipped about it. I told you I believe it is connected to the investigation of the Interpol for Pueblos sin Fronteras, and that one of the groups that was going to be investigated very soon and closely connected to that is obviously Nicole Ramos and Pueblos sin Fronteras.
Mm-hmm.
And I was right. She's
Yep.
on the list, and
Yep.
many of the Caravan Sport Network people are,
Yep.
including Evan Duke.
Mm-hmm.
And I was right about a lot of the people that I guess were on that list because I've been investigating them
Yep.
all this time.
Exactly.
So much so, in fact, that this Evan Duke, this very same Evan Duke that called Melinda and Amy and Oscar, and now the very same people working with Nicole Ramos who are trying to call me a Trump supporter, try to call me a fascist, are all coming under this umbrella of Evan Duke, who accuses me of being the reason why people are being investigated. He does it right here in this article that was written by Miss Fry, Wendy Fry of the San Diego Union Tribune. The copy of the link of this article I'm going to share with you does not come from the San Diego Union Tribune, but rather it was used in the publication Task and Purpose. For those of you who don't know, Task and Purpose is a publication about the military for the military. I'm assuming many other people besides people in the military read it, but I've been aware of it because they covered Standing Rock as well. And it's interesting that it was published in Task and Purpose because you know that the military and that the veterans are looking at this article. This is of interest to them. And we're talking specifically here about border security. And in this article titled, The FBI is reportedly investigating activists for plotting an armed rebellion at the U.S.-Mexico border with cartel-supplied guns, was written by Wendy Fry, the San Diego Union Tribune, on April 29th, 2019, as we were coming home, Duke.
Oh, wow. That's
Everyone sent it to me.
right. Yeah, I remember. You're going, okay.
So let's read it together. When federal law enforcement officials last year began collecting dossiers on mostly American journalists, activists, and lawyers in Tijuana involved in the migrant caravan, one part of their investigation focused on an alleged plot by drug cartel to sell guns to protesters, according to a Federal Bureau of Investigation's report. On December 18, 2018, documents from the FBI obtained by the Union Tribune specifies an alleged plan for activists to purchase guns from a Mexico-based cartel associate known as Cobra Commander or Ivan Ribling. The protesters want to stage an armed rebellion in the border, quote unquote, the FBI reported to dozens of federal enforcement agencies in the U.S. and Mexico. Dozens, with a Z and a S. Dozens. That's more than one dozen, which means more than 12.
More than 24.
And more than 24. Here we go. The unclassified report was provided to the Union Tribune on the condition the person providing it would not be named, and with the request the entire document not be shared online because of the ongoing nature of the investigation. Now, the document warns of quote-unquote anti-fascist activists that plan to disrupt U.S. law enforcement and military security operations at the U.S.-Mexican border. 2 additional law enforcement officials confirmed. Let me repeat. 2 additional law enforcement officials confirmed the investigation is ongoing, although no one has been charged. Unclassified means information can be released to people without a security clearance, but the document was also labeled law enforcement sensitive, which means it was intended to be only seen by law enforcement. The information in this report, not finally evaluated intelligence, it says in this 6-page report, receiving agencies are requested to take not to take, action based on this raw reporting without prior coordination with the FBI. The FBI sent this report with priority to the Department of Homeland Security, U.S. Customs and Border Protection, the Drug Enforcement Agency, Immigration and Customs Enforcement, the Central Intelligence Agency, and the National Security Administration, among others. 2 people named in the report, Ivan Ribling and Evan Duke, said the accusations are untrue and illogical. Duke said he never met Ribling and that Ribling was not someone he would have associated with. Ribling said the accusation in the FBI's reports are illogical. Both of them said illogical.
Yeah.
It doesn't, quote, it doesn't make any sense that someone from the United States would purchase guns in Mexico unless you have a criminal record like you do, Duke, Evan Duke the Third, and a lot of your anarchist, anti-fascist friends, felonies that would prohibit most of you from getting guns. Then it would make sense, wouldn't it? Mm-hmm. Maybe I solved the riddle.
Yeah.
And the Hondurans certainly didn't bring money to buy guns. They weren't saying the Hondurans were going to get armed. They said the activists, the anti-fascist activists.
Mm-hmm.
You, Jesse Garcia, Mr. Poetry Slam with the tattoos on his face, Lilith Sinclair, Kiara Horsley, all those people. That's who they're talking about. Tucker, Myron. He says, and the Hondurans didn't bring any money. It doesn't make any sense. In fact, it's extremely absurd to say the Hondurans wanted to attack the U.S. at the border. That's not what they said. They said your American activists wanted to disrupt activities at the border. A few main names included in the FBI report overlap with names included in a secret database of people being monitored by Customs and Border Protection and Homeland Security investigations, originally reported by NBC San Diego and Telemundo 20. However, the database includes many others not included in the FBI report, and it remains unclear why those people, mostly American journalists, activists, and attorneys, were targeted and monitored. I know. Duke, I know the answer to this one. Yes, I do.
Tell it.
I do. In March, it was discovered that Customs and Border Protection had compiled lists of people it wanted to stop for questioning at the border. Agents questioned or arrested at least 21 of them, according to documents obtained by NBC San Diego. On that list, Ribling is described as an instigator, and Evan Duke's name and picture is also included. CBP said the name on the list are people who were present when violence broke out on the Tijuana border in November and January when agents deployed tear gas. The agents said people were being questioned so that the agency could learn more about what started the altercation. Some of the people detained in question said they were asked whether anyone was encouraging migrants to rush the border during the 2 incidents. Yes, they were. Several people confirmed they were told they were being questioned as part of a national security investigation. And other things. The FBI's report says a group of activists in Tijuana supporting the migrant caravan were encouraged to bring personally owned weapons to the border. And the group also intended to purchase weapons from a Mexico-based cartel associate known as Cobra Commander, a.k.a. the Mexican Rambo, and smuggle the weapons into the United States. Several activists... Duke, I made it through that whole sentence without laughing at the Mexican Rambo part. Mm-hmm. He's Russian. Ribling.
Yep.
Ivan. Several activists involved with the migrant caravan said he has a criminal record too. Ribling admits that he has cartel connections, and also he has been arrested for smuggling drugs and kidnapping. Weapons charges. Yeah. Several activists involved with the migrant caravan said the accusation that they would try to purchase weapons in Mexico is especially absurd, given that buying guns in the U.S. is easy and legal for non-felons.
Yeah, exactly.
For non-felons, for the most part. Yes, it is. Yep. You're right about that. If it's so easy, then why can't felons get the guns? Well, because there's laws against that. That's why you would need to get them elsewhere. Anyway, quote, this is Evan Duke. Here I find the government again trying to tie me into some stuff I wasn't involved in, said Duke, a U.S. activist who is opposed to President Donald Trump's immigration policies and whose work in Tijuana was monitored by federal authorities. Duke said Ribling was not someone he would have associated with because he didn't trust him and because Ribling had expressed negative views in social media videos about the migrants in the caravan. We were warned to look out for him, said Duke. We took the precaution to find out who he was and where he was, but we never had any contact with him. We just knew where he was at all times.
Yeah, exactly.
And we never saw him around the migrant caravan. He was around the migrant caravan at the same time that you were there around the migrant caravan. Don't pretend. Ribling said he was originally helping an earlier caravan of mostly women and children who arrived in Tijuana, but he quickly decided he no longer wanted to help the Hondurans. I can send you several videos of myself attacking the Hondurans because they were my enemies, Ribling said in a recent interview. That guy's so cray. Ribling said he was never detained or interrogated by the FBI about his involvement with the migrant caravan. He said he took no part in trying to sell guns to anyone and that he's not a cartel member. Nobody does have contacts in the cartel. I am not cartel. I don't sell drugs. I don't sell arms, said Ribling. I'm a revolutionary who was caught bringing drugs over the border. You do sell drugs.
Yeah.
Oh my God, why are you lying? And what about the weapons charges? Oh my God, what a liar. Okay. A man who believes in his ideals, and I'm going to defend Mexico. Alrighty then. The unclassified FBI report identifies Ribling as being, quote, associated with the Jalisco New Generation cartel. See? Told you. But Ribling, a Tijuana resident, said he is not. If I were selling drugs or guns, they would kill me, said Ribling. Ribling said he was upset by the accusations in the report. Quote, the government of the United States know perfectly well that I am not a member of any cartel, said Ribling. I have associates with several of the cartels. Yes, I do. That's my case.
Yep.
But I am not a narco trafficker. But you are, though, because you were trafficking the drugs across the border. And they arrested you for that. Did he forget about his criminal record, dude?
I guess he did.
And he says, and they know that. Does he mean currently he's not a narco trafficker? Because he was.
He gave it up.
Yeah, he gave it up, but he did it, though. Okay, anyway. Ribling said and he still has associates with a bunch of the cartels. He just said that.
Yeah.
Okay. Anyway, Ribling said he became angry with members of the Central American caravan in Tijuana after he discovered some were selling items he brought them for humanitarian relief like blankets, water, and shoes. They were exchanging these items for drugs, and it made me mad, and I no longer wanted to help them, and I was vocal about that, he said. In a video tape posted online, he encouraged members of the drug cartel to attack migrants with bats and hunt down migrants to take them to Mexican immigration authorities to be deported. Many members of the migrant caravan were attacked with rocks and tear gas. 2 Honduran teenagers were brutally killed. Duke said he was told to avoid Ribling because of his negative views about migrants. I was warned about him when I was arriving in TJ, said Evan Duke. His name came up to me from a couple different sources to watch out for that guy. The FBI's report says Duke was working with Ribling and others, not just to procure weapons, but to help set up camps to train activists to become community defense militias, also known as autodefensas. Autodefensas is what that was trying to say. Auto defense militias, they're called the same thing. Organizers planned the camps to be used as staging platforms. I've already told you all about these camps.
Yeah.
I told you the camps were coming. From which 5-person units would form to train anarchists in fighting, in combat, and conducting reconnaissance, and then launch to disrupt U.S. government operations along the border, the report states. Duke said that along with other activists, he was twice hot stopped, held at gunpoint by U.S. Customs and Border Protection officers, and detained for hours as he tried to cross the border. In one instance, Duke said he was driving into San Diego from Tijuana at the San Isidro port of entry after delivering supplies to migrants at shelters in Tijuana. When he got near the CBP checkpoint, border officials drew their guns and ordered him out of the car, Duke said. My first thought was, wow, I don't think this is good. This can't be good, Duke said. I overheard their radios and someone was saying, you've got so many guns on these guys. You're only supposed to have 6 guns on them. I think they were turning 25 guns on us at that moment. Based on questions investigators asked him, Duke said he believes it's possible that authorities are acting upon information provided to law enforcement by right-wing conspiracy groups. Let's just pause there because his next sentence is that he then told this reporter that a North Dakota radio talk show host bragged on the air about reporting him and his colleagues to law enforcement. Okay. So he's saying that me, this talk show host in North Dakota, is a right-wing conspiracy group. Did you not understand it to mean that, Duke? Or what?
Oh, yeah, that's exactly what I heard, and it's always amazing that these people never, ever say your name. You're the radio station host in Fargo. You're in North Dakota, on radio. And now he's calling you a right-winger because you've been reporting on the stuff he's been leaving in his trail for everyone to see. Your information has come from publicly available sources. He's laying it out there. He's being investigated from things he's doing, not from you talking about the things he's doing. It's a big difference.
He's calling me a right-wing hate group. Not because any of that is true. If I were a Republican, if I had voted Republican, I would tell you. I don't need to lie. I didn't vote for Trump. I don't like his lack of knowledge on topics such as immigration, the history. I think he's careless in his speech. I think that diplomats should be a lot more careful. And especially I believe that this should be happening at a time when our country is so divided. For that, and the way in which many of his followers talk, I get offended. And I don't like it. Is that the same as calling them Nazis? No. Should that be equivalent of calling someone a hate group?
Nope.
No. Does that mean that I shouldn't try to talk to my fellow Americans no matter what freaking party they voted for because we all live in the same boat? And you need to have the correct information to make an educated decision about what happens to policy in our country? That we should be listening to what's happening across the border? That's why this Mexican crossing lines is bringing you this information so that you can make an educated decision? I'm not going to lie to you about what's happening in Mexico. A lot of it is ugly. It's not good. It's why the Mexican people are so disgusted with the continuing caravans. It's why people are so tired of it. The folks that organized these groups and that are exploiting them do not care about the rift that they are causing among Mexicans, among Americans, and the backlash, the repercussions of what that backlash will mean for immigration policy and for Mexicans like myself, for immigrants in general in this country, because of these activists who are bringing these people here and who admit they have no responsibility for what happens after. And I would love to believe that if I was a right-wing conspiracy theorist, hate group Nazi, as people want to label me now, simply because I'm exposing their fraudulent ways and criminal ways to a wider and wider and wider audience that sees my receipts and knows that I'm speaking the truth. I only wish that all these law enforcement agencies were paying attention and using the extensive investigative research and evidence I have gathered for y'all to put these people in jail, to charge them for the crimes they've committed, and to bring them to justice.
Yeah.
That would be awesome.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm not that powerful. I know that there are people, and I have bragged about this on my show. It's true. I've said I contacted law enforcement. I didn't say which law enforcement. I didn't say who. But I did say I have contacted law enforcement, and that's true, I have. In addition to that, I did not say what agency or what. I gave no details of what I said or who I said it to. But what these folks want you to believe when they tell you this, that the source of Interpol, the FBI, Mexico's Interior Department, Homeland Security, the DEA, Customs and Border Patrol, and so on and so forth, as they said in the other Boston Review article, over dozens of agencies received this FBI report. They want you to believe I did all of that it came from a right-wing Nazi, because then you can discredit the source, and then it doesn't mean that they're doing something really messed up and criminal that, you know, if you just heard they were being investigated by one agency, you'd be like, well, maybe, you know, the FBI does have a history of being biased against black people and people of color. So sure, maybe they're being the same now, even though we don't have any evidence of what's in their investigation. But maybe they're doing this, that agency is doing it. But all of these agencies in different countries, all of them, Grupo Beta, everybody, they're all Nazis, they're all fascists, they're all of them, all of us, everyone. You're going to say that? Seriously? And people buy that? This right-wing conspiracy theorist Nazi out here in Fargo, Moorhead, is not being investigated by Interpol, the FBI, Homeland Security, the DEA, the CIA, and I could go on. But we don't have enough time. It ain't me. It's y'all that are in that database. And that's a little piece of the iceberg. That's a little piece of the iceberg. So, folks, why don't you wake up? When people are trying to tell you stuff like that, why don't you all Google me, check on my record, see what I've said, see what I've done, so that you can figure out whether or not these people are telling the truth about yours truly. I don't believe that that is correct, and I know that it's not correct, and I know the reason why they do it, and that is because of their associations to the people that are being the most heavily investigated and what they're being investigated for. Violence, weapons charges. This sounds like terrorist activity trying to overthrow the government of the United States and interfering in what appears to be an investigation of human smuggling and trafficking across various countries. That's what we're talking about here. Here is what Wendy Fry posted recently about Evan Duke. Here's what she posted. Startling account from Evan Duke about, and this is March 7th, so this is last month now. But she was posting, the same person that wrote this article was talking to Evan Duke about how he was hot stopped at the border checkpoint. Here they are talking about that, right? Mm-hmm. And they interviewed Tucker, who's on the chalkboard, one of the people listed on the chalkboard. Tucker said to me, "You have rifles aimed at your head right now, and so do I," said Duke, describing the tense moments when CBP ordered them to exit their vehicle. They told Tucker to put his hands outside the window, and I did too, and they started yelling, "Just the driver!" And I thought, "Oh God, don't kill me," Duke said. Based on questions investigators asked him, Duke said he believes it's possible investigators are acting upon information provided to law enforcement by right-wing conspiracy groups. Again, they quote, "This has been brought up before, folks. Notice what they're trying to do here. Right-wing conspiracy group. If you just keep saying it, it doesn't matter that I've never voted Republican in my life. If you just keep saying it, it doesn't matter that I've been an advocate and that I work with immigration attorneys currently for people that are going the proper immigration channels. That I have tried to help reform immigration policy in this country, and that I will continue to speak out against people that are pseudo-activists trying to astroturf an issue and usurp the voices of Mexicans in the conversation about immigration policy. I'm sorry. This Mexican crossing lines ain't having it." And you can see that's the San Diego Union Tribune. They asked me if I was at Standing Rock. Who asked you? Nobody cares about that anymore.
Yeah.
Stop using it as an excuse to do criming. "Yeah, I was at Standing Rock. They asked me if I was at the presidential inauguration. I said, I'm pretty sure you know that because it's on my Facebook."
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he started Occupy Inauguration. And he is one of the people that wanted to impeach Trump. He started a campaign under Impeach Trump, under the Resist hashtag, and more. And here is a tweet, or here is a bio for Wendy, who shared this information. This is her. She is on the board, I believe, or she's a member of the Watchdog Accountability Team at the San Diego Union Tribune. She worked at the newspaper from 2009 to 2012, worked at NBC San Diego from 2013 to 2018 before returning to the paper. Wendy won an SPJ Soul Award for responsible journalism in 2012 for her coverage of the corruption of the Sweetwater schools, and she won the Grand Golden Watchdog Award from the San Diego County Taxpayer Association in 2017. There's a little bit about Wendy.
Wow.
And this is the article screenshot from Task and Purpose. This is the screenshot from Task and Purpose, where they're talking about, if you scroll down, that this information came from yours truly, without saying my name, of course, because then people could actually come to kpppfm.com, look at my shows, Google his name, and find out everything they wanted to know about his background.
Yeah.
And this is the real reason why, folks, because the Border Support Network that was started by Duke, who is currently being investigated for basically what would amount to terrorist activity to disrupt, to do a soft coup on our own country. This dude is connected to Al Otro Lado, is connected to the organizations that are on this chalkboard. Let's look at the chalkboard that we showed during our presentation at the Borderlands Studies Association of Borderland Studies Conference. It's the Border Support Network on the chalkboard that explains to you what the associations are within this network. And as you can see on this chalkboard at the very bottom, under the Border Support Network logo, or, the name that's at the very top, you see at the very bottom on the left-hand side, in the smallest of print at the very top, legal support. Under that, there are two bullet points. The first one is Al Otro Lado. The second one is Tucker.
Yeah.
Tucker, the one working with Duke. The one that was just quoted in the article about the FBI. Tucker. And Border Support Network has been posting Al Otro Lado in BSN in this Border Support Network page for a while. Here's one of his posts about Al Otro Lado. And he tags not only Al Otro Lado, but the National Lawyers Guild.
Yeah.
Volunteer to provide emergency legal observer support at the border. It's on the chalkboard, and so is Al Otro Lado. These folks work together. The guy being investigated by the FBI for buying guns from people connected to the cartel, Evan Duke, is very, very closely connected to Al Otro Lado's lawyer, Nicole Ramos, and Al Otro Lado. Okay? As we know, so is Susie Desba. That's why she's throwing shade, because she knows she's on that list, too. She knows she's being investigated. As you can see, she posted El Bridge, the Puente, this group, this music group that was formed haphazardly.
Yeah.
The thing that nobody wanted. Mm-hmm. The thing that nobody asked for. And as you can see, they have tags. Adam Elfers with Lolly B and Douglas Oviedo. And you know Lolly B works as a volunteer giving out free legal advice that is shaped by Al Otro Lado. She volunteers and helps Al Otro Lado. And they tagged Sanctuary Coalition, New Sanctuary Coalition, Families Belong Together. That's Paola Mendoza. New Sanctuary Coalition, that's Suza Duska or something like that. The clergy person.
Yeah.
That's in the list that was being investigated.
Oh, yeah, I remember.
And many more. Next, you can see at the very top, because the point of this is that it's Susie's post, that this was posted by Susie Desba. You see that? Next, here's another one from Susie Desba in the Border Support Network to support Al Otro Lado. That's why they want to throw dirt on a Mexican crossing lines. That's why all of these people want to hide their associations. The investigation currently underway by the FBI and more than a dozen other organizations, international organizations, because they work directly with the people at Al Otro Lado. Because those people at Al Otro Lado work directly with the people being investigated, and they too are being investigated. And they don't want to talk about that. There's Lolly B down there. If you scroll down, she's also an advocate for Al Otro Lado from one of our immigration attorneys. Here it is, Al Otro Lado. And where is it posted? Border Support Network, founded by Evan Duke, being investigated by the FBI. Who posted it? Lolly B, one of their volunteers, giving out legal advice. And if you go further down and scroll to the bottom, you will see there's nothing else. Sorry. Sorry about that. I thought there's another one that's got more.
Okay.
Next one, we've got Border Support Network being posted by one of the ladies that was talking about Melinda Oporto in that post in Border Support Network where they're calling Oscar and her fascists, part of hate groups. Here we have Karena Arcea Paez, one of the people from the Border Support Network, the lady that was in that thread where they were talking about how they were labeling these folks, Oscar and Melinda, as hate group people and fascists. That same lady is here posting about Bertie Gutierrez bridges love across border.
Yeah.
It's a digital smoke signals video.
Wow.
Connected to Deborah Parker and Bernie Sanders and Our Revolution and all of those people. Of course, Al Otro Lado is tagged. Is a group of U.S. immigration attorneys, volunteers, legal observers, training, and immigration advice assistance in Tijuana.
Wow.
Give them money, says Bertie. Give them money, says Digital Smoke Signals, says Myron Dewey, all of whom are supporting Al Otro Lado, working directly with Evan Duke, one of the people being investigated by the FBI for weapons, for buying weapons from connections to the cartel in Mexico. This is what the FBI put in the report, folks. I'm just reporting this news to you. BSN, Border Support Network activists, have been warned by one of the same people calling Oscar and Melinda fascists. And one of the people in the thread where they're bashing these folks because they're Trump supporters, that the activists should not be giving legal advice.
Yeah.
And that's probably one of the reasons why they want to tell you and why Nicole Ramos would lie about the fact they're giving legal advice to migrants, legal advice to asylum applicants in Mexico. Because activists like Lolly B and Jake Lee and many others are doing exactly that. I showed you on tape. They're doing it. Poorly, but they're doing it. Maybe it's to cover for the lawyers. Who knows? But they're doing it. And Karen Karina Arcea Paez is telling people the last thing that you should be doing is giving legal advice to asylum applicants. You are not helping by doing this. And yet they persisted.
Yeah, exactly.
That they continued. BNS will continue to be the focus of many of these investigations, but so is Al Otro Lado. So is Nicole Ramos, folks. So one of the reasons you're going to be hearing a lot of this talk that is disparaging and attempting to discredit and silence and censor us is because our message is not well received, because it goes against their narrative that they are the only saviors of the caravan when they were the ones that created the chaos and now are coming to be the saviors. This is a picture of our last day. We didn't have a lot of great moments. The time we spent in gathering information, reporting to you, as hard as draining as it was,
Yeah, it was all work, no play.
All work, no play.
All work, no play. But the work is worth it, boy. It's quite an experience to be able to actually be there and talk to people. And none of this crap that says, you don't know what you're talking about. You have no idea what's going on down here. You know a lot more of what's going down there now.
Oh, yeah. And we did get to see the ocean. That's a picture of Duke standing in front of the ocean. It's pretty cold out there, so no going into the ocean for us. Yeah. And we did see a seal that day poke its head out of the water. It was kind of cool. Yeah, we saw that. Cool. But other than that, this was all work, no play. It was pretty hard work. Thank you to all of the people that helped us do that, including Oscar, including the two ladies from San Diego, Amy and Melinda, that went to the conference to ask some more pointed questions. You guys did a great job. I think that the folks that are yelling and saying that they're victims of harassment and of government persecution are trying to deflect because the tide is coming in.
Yeah, the tide is coming in.
Yeah, the tide is high. It's coming in. And I think that these folks know what's coming, so they're starting to try to defend themselves, even if it means making stuff up about the people like yours truly that are out there digging up the information and showing you what's really going on. Next time, I'll be bringing you more information about what's happening with these accusations being made by Al Otro Lado. And I will have more reporting of my trip to San Diego and Tijuana here on a Mexican Crossing Lines. You've been listening to your hosts, Cindy Gomez-Schempp
and Duke Gomez-Schempp
on 88.1 FM, KPPPLP, Fargo Moorhead, where we are adding local color to your airwaves. Thank you for your patience. Thank you for your support. And thank you for being with us. Good night.